So the gospel we just heard is called apocalyptic literature. It talks about the end times, what the end times are going to be like. And it's a pretty good chunk of the Bible, near the end of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But we're going to have, every year, the church year, the last 2 or 3 Sundays of the year, and then the first 2 Sundays of Advent are apocalyptic literature. So you're going to be hearing more of that the next 3-4 weeks. So I thought I would preach today on that second reading, which I don't know if I've ever preached on, Paul's reading about work. He writes it to the Thessalonians, and that's his first letters, to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. They thought, because it's early in the Christian time, that Jesus was coming back any time. They were expecting him, waiting for him, and that he was going to be back any time. So some of them have quit their jobs. Jesus is coming back. Why, if I'm going to die anyway, why work? And quite a few of them, I never quite figured this out, have left their wives. I don't quite get that connection. But anyway, Jesus is coming back and they left their wives. So Paul's writing to them and he's going, no, 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 no. He's going, go back to work, go back to your wife. If you can't work, if you can work but you refuse to, then don't eat. He said, keep busy and quit acting like busybodies. He's telling them, get back to getting on with your life. So I decided to look at work today with you because work is such a huge part of life for all of us. Probably at least half of our waking hours are spent at work, maybe more. And a lot of stuff written out there on work. I ran into some work jokes this week that I thought were pretty cute. One, and this is a true story, personnel directors around the country were asked what was the most unusual thing that happened to them during an interview. Here are some of their answers. These are true answers. The applicant interrupted the interview to telephone his psychiatrist to talk over the answer to a question. I love it. The applicant ignored the no smoking sign and then 2 times lit the wrong end of his filter tip cigarette. A balding applicant excused himself and returned in a few minutes wearing a hairpiece. These are true. The applicant challenged the interviewer to arm wrestle. So those who enjoy their work, and there are many, it must be said there are many who enjoy their work, are blessed. But even for them, I think there are times when it's a job. It's a difficult task. Those who have gone long periods looking for work testify how grateful they would be for any job, just to have work. I read a story about a young mom, full-time homemaker, and she loved it. She loved being a wife, she loved being a mother, but she had gotten tired of some of the responsibilities that go with it. She had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and a brand new baby. Her husband came home one day to find 5 dozen diapers hanging on a line in the backyard. They'd been washed or drying out. He said to her, I saw all the white flags in the backyard. I see you've surrendered. Even when we love what we do, I'm sure for all of us, work can be stressful at different times. Work is actually an important part of our spiritual life, our life with God. It's not parallel, it's part of our spiritual life. In the book of Genesis, God asked Adam to tend the garden. A lot of people don't realize this. He asked that to Adam before Adam and Eve sinned, ate the fruit. He asked it before Eve was created. It's true after his sin, work became much more difficult, but work was not seen as a punishment for sin. Adam was working, tending the garden, before he sinned. We believe that when we work, at whatever task we work, we are co-creators with God. We're helping God in this beautiful world that he gave us, building up the world that he left in our safekeeping. We're partners in his plan. So naturally it follows, if my work is I'm a co-creator with God, then I should do the best I possibly can at my job. I remember my very first visit to Madonna House. I love that. I get up there about every year. But it was 1976. And they really have it clear that There's no such thing as unimportant work, and whatever job we do, we should put our heart and soul into it. So, and everybody works. So my job one day was to clean the toilets. And so one of the staff workers started me, and she showed me how to clean the toilet. And then I did the next one, and she looked at me, she goes, "Father, you're going to have to do a lot better than that." In other words, how I was becoming holy at that minute was doing an excellent job cleaning that toilet. That whatever work we do is important, and we should do it with quality. I read a neat quote on this point, which I think makes a lot of sense. It said, "God is more delighted in adverbs than in nouns." So what work we do doesn't matter as much as how well it's done. If you're a plumber, do an excellent job plumbing. If you're a carpenter, do a great job carpentering. If you're a doctor, do an excellent job doctoring. If you're a homemaker, do a fantastic job homemaking. If you're an accountant, do a great job being an accountant. All those are the nouns, but the how is what God's more interested in. How we're doing the work that is given to us. The Bible shows God at work. Genesis clearly shows God at work creating the world. When it's done, God does not say it's good enough. God looks at all that He has done and says it is very good indeed. For ourselves as well, we're to give our best efforts to our work. Catherine Doherty is the founder of Madonna House that I was mentioning earlier. She's very, very clear on the holiness of work. I'd like to close with just some words from her which delineate the underlying holiness of all types of work. And it's from her book called People of the Towel and Water. So that, in other words, that was the work of a slave that Jesus was doing, right? Washing his apostles' feet at the Last Supper. Slaves did that. Jesus is doing it, and we can't imagine that He didn't do it very, very well. That He washed and wiped His apostles' feet with excellence. Here's what she says on work. A carpenter works with wood. An electrician is concerned with installing electrical equipment and keeping it in good repair. A farmer toils long hours that the earth may yield his produce. They must be aware that in the midst of their labors, they are going about the Father's business. The sewing department up there at Madonna House has to understand the constant repetitious routine of mending, patching, sewing on buttons is itself a prayer. The laundry must know that it is clothing the naked. The kitchen must realize it is feeding the hungry. Librarians, archivists, office workers, like the good stewards of their particular kingdoms, must consider how to bring out of their storerooms things both new and old. I hope and pray that everyone, now and in the coming tomorrows, will remember the holiness of little things done well, over and over again, for the love of God. Each one of us, may we remember the holiness of the little things done well, for the love of God.